thank you, Nicola and team, for having me. I will also keep it quite brief. So I'm Oliver Gingrich. I am part of Art in Flux. I'm a practicing new media artist. I'm also part of the art collective Unedited group. And today I'll be talking about 3 different projects very briefly to give you a bit of an overview of what I do. So yeah, as I was mentioning, with Flux we're really trying to create a forum for media artists to meet, to have discussions, talks, but also to do exhibitions together and workshops. And this project is a project that we did in North Kensington, so it was about Islamic digital art. And the idea here was to create a collaborative art piece whereby the audience would be creating their own work that was then projected opposite the Grenfell Tower. So Aya Sign was in collaboration with Sarah Chowdhury, an Islamic digital artist, and we worked together with local communities in creating this piece. And the specific challenge, I guess, was it was an outdoor projection. It was in June, so it's not necessarily easy to do a projection piece in summer outdoors. It worked really, really well though, and the piece was then shown at RBKC Town Hall subsequently. Another exhibition we did this year with Art in Flux is Intelligent Matter. So this exhibition was about Stuart Batchelor's work and my own work. I work a lot with holograms, holographic projection, with brainwave art and EEGs. And here the idea was to work with local communities to bring social matters and current issues to the surface or to the forefront to discuss them together. The piece here is called The Crack, and the idea with The Crack is that you are concentrating, so it's quite an introspective piece, and your concentration is driving these cracks in the wall. The background is all about CO2 emissions, so concrete is really one of the key polluters worldwide. It's the second one after traffic. And what I wanted to talk about with this piece was to change kind of the characteristic of CO2 from a polluter to an absorber of pollution. So if you're breaking up concrete structures, you can it starts to absorb sulfur particles. So it actually changes its characteristic from something that is pollutant to being absorbent. And the piece was is a projection piece that was then shown at event 2, the exhibition that Sean was talking about. Yeah, the piece that I am presenting to you here today is here on the wall. It is called Air. It's another piece that is really interested in participatory art as a means to create social change. It talks about air pollution, and it's relying on a real-time stream of data that is drawn from King's College. And what it does is it analyzes this data, runs through a script, and this is then mapped onto this particle system that you see up there in the gods, and this then bounces back and refracts onto the wall. So what I wanted to show here is to have this to illustrate the seeping character of pollution, that doesn't really stop in front of walls, and that infiltrates our everyday life and affects our health. It's particularly relevant in my own area, so I work in North Kensington, and there the pollution levels are really, really high, so the local communities, especially after Grenfell, were suffering quite a bit, and it's also a subject that is often brushed under the carpet, so it's something that it felt worthwhile and necessary to talk about. The difficulties I had with the piece was to get a real-time stream of data. So what you're here looking at is actually the last 10 years of CO2 pollution in that particular area in London, cycling through the script. I was speaking to DEFRA at the time, but it wasn't possible to get a real-time feed, with King's College has access to it, but it couldn't actually give me a real-time stream. So these are 3 quick examples. This is how I work. So here you can see the data is being read in. There's CO2, there's particles that I'm then creating, it's a generative piece, and that is then reflected there. So it's a bit of a spaghetti junction of data. So the last aspect of my work is my work with Unedited Group. We've been working for 10 years now, specifically on visual sound. And this is the four of us, the core team. Evgenia Emmett founded Unedited Group 10 years ago. And yeah, we've been collaborating ever since. And we work a lot with light and darkness, specifically in creating spaces, immersive spaces for the audience to explore visual sound in. This piece was at the Union Chapel, and it's a projection piece, projection mapping piece. Tim asked us to talk about our practice and the difficulties and challenges of working with light. And I guess here, what we learned from working with very large spaces is really to go in prepared, to map everything out, to create small modules, to do tests. We had one chance really to get it right, and it was a beautiful real-time composition. The same at the Roundhouse, where we did a piece for the 50th anniversary in 2016. So this was a real-time visualization of the audience's voices, so they could sing into 6 different microphones and see visual representations of their voice in the space around them. Again, technically quite a challenge. It's always good to just budget a lot of time in for these type of installations. I also mentioned I work quite a bit with holograms. This piece was presented at the Great Exhibition Road Festival, and here the audience was invited to create visual shapes of their voice again, but also to find harmonies between their voices. And again, I guess it's all about preparation, assuring that you know the lighting conditions, that you have control over it as much as possible. And that's the very last project, very, very briefly. We just exhibited this at the Tate in November. And the idea with Chemo Noise is not to talk about air pollution, but to talk about noise pollution that we are experiencing in the public arena, and specifically in that particular area of London. So in Southwark, you have noise levels of about 80 dB during the daytime, so it's very noisy. And we had a projection piece that was presented on the left side of the Herzog de Meuron building, the Blavatsky building as it's called nowadays. And it was projected onto the windows, so it was quite a challenge because it needed to work in daytime. And again, we did, I think, 3 different technical tests to assure that it would work on a technical level. Working with these lines that we had there and specific foil to cover the windows and create a really nice immersive installation. But also working in the dark. In this particular instance, the audience was not just working with light, but also with sound, and animating the sound to circulate in the space in real time, so they could draw their own projections of noise, and then they would perceive this as a sound sculpture in the space around them. This is us with an Unedited Group. We have our next exhibition at the National Gallery X, which is a new space between King's College and the National Gallery and Google Lab. This exhibition is in March 2020, and this is also the space where we'll have our next Flux talk, which is in April, about gender and media art, entitled Gender Tuck. And that's it from me.